Okay, right. That's saying live. Good. Okay, let's put that there. And that there. And go to... I need my preview so I can get a chat and such like. Not that. Live now. There we go. Not that. Live now. There we go. Aha. Hello, George Winning. There you go. You got in the first thing that I saw in the chat. Live now. There we go. Oh, there we go. I need to mute the preview. Why is the preview unmuted by default? Thanks, YouTube. Whatever. Right. Okay, I have a chat. I'll put that over my own face because I don't need to see my own face. Do-do-do-do-do. Good. Right. On time, as expected. Hello, everyone. How's it going? That's fine. Actually, I don't need that on... Oh, actually, I do want that on show.
Oh, boy.
I want the stats. Where are my stats? There's the stats. There we go. Okay, we're fine. Good. All right. Hello, everyone. How you all doing? Are we set to go? I think we're good to go. Are you ready?
I was ready 5 minutes ago.
It's true. Well, you were ready 15 minutes ago. I wasn't ready. I thought I was closer to ready, but now I'm actually ready. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? So, welcome everyone to talk, guys, about YouTube stats for tech.
The web show, episode 3. Revenge for stats.
Yes, I was going to say, I hope you've got a prequel meme lined up for that, because I don't. So, I don't even have a drink lined up. I'm going to walk away and get that at some point during this video. Fine. Very well then.
And here I was thinking you were the professional YouTube star.
Yeah, about that. How is sound for everyone? Can people tell me that my voice is sounding good versus Caradog's voice? I hope it's all looking good. I'll wait.
The thing I'm
Carry on.
loving is that I'm currently looking at your channel in an incognito window, and the stream doesn't exist.
Oh.
And I'm like, good job, YouTube.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's still syndicating out there. It probably takes a while just to push it. I mean, we've only been up for a minute or so. But yes, smooth as silk. Good, good. All right, everything sounds good. Yep, that's fine. They can see and hear us both. That's fine with me. Groovy, let's get into it then. Right,
much to their detriment or something.
Yeah. Where do you want to start at today? We've got, if I bring up our notes for episode 1, which we're still getting our money's worth out of.
Absolutely.
We can either talk about toolkits again, which we didn't get around to in the last one, or we can jump into another topic such as cooling or something like that.
I don't know, but yes. I thought we should just continue what we were saying about just before we went live about one-shot videos. Only because we kind of started and it links into other stuff I was looking at. Just the fact that, yeah. Born off of the fact that I was watching Dave at EEV blog.
At the EV blog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, genuinely, when I first discovered it, electric vehicles were a big thing already. So I was like, oh, it's an electric No, this is nothing to do with electric vehicles. I was slightly taken aback. I was, yes, surprised. But yes, just about the case of how he clearly knows what he's on about, and he clearly has a lot of useful information, a lot of useful knowledge. But
we wish he would script his videos a little bit more.
Yes.
Not a hard script, just structure.
Yeah, just the fact of I basically entirely stopped watching him and paying any attention to him. Just because I was like, you're putting out these 40 or 50-minute videos, which, if you'd actually thought about what you were going to say beforehand, would have been like a 4-minute video.
Yeah,
it's just like, there's 4 minutes of information in this 40-minute video, even watching it 2 times speed.
Yes.
I'm just kind of going...
Yeah, I absolutely
Don't
love the information in his videos. However, just you really have to drill into it a bit more. Spudnugget just pointed out that we should probably post this on the Discord, and he would probably be right. Has the automatic system done it for me? It hasn't. Oh no. Yeah, I thought the
because you're not. The stream is still not showing as a video of yours. Have you set it to private?
Is it if it's private by default, I'm going to be
It's private
angry.
by default.
No, the privacy is set to public.
Oh.
It's set to public. Well, whatever. I guess I'll just link it in. Whatever. I'll link it in everywhere. News. We live.
Good job. Well done.
Peeps. Right, that's there. Okay.
Live with the most professional of web shows.
That's been posted. I should probably bash that onto Twitter as well, just in case. Such are the joy. Whatever. Right, respond. Actual link. Tweet. There we go. Done. Done and done. All right. Let's see. Link has been posted to the Discord. Yep, that's been done. Right, emailed you to ask me about my to fix the laptop. Emailing me was your first mistake. My inbox is swamped at the moment. I don't know when I'm going to get to that. I'm currently not taking on mail order repairs just because I will get swamped in a matter of a day. So I'm just like not set up for it at the moment. I really want to be, but I'm not in a position to do it at the moment. So yeah, we'll get to it. I do want to do it at some point, but yeah, not yet. Blue Shirt Dude is Caradog from the Discord. He's my other admin. And isn't it? That's your F1 flag, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Hold on. Can we just...
There we go. F1 fans, rejoice.
Oh, that's a window. Hold on. Where am I? There we go.
Private information. You're going to get doxxed now.
You're going to get doxxed about shoes. Genuinely, the only reason that's there is because it's a large picture frame that happens to be roughly the size of my window aperture. So it just sits there and blocks direct sunlight. That's literally its function.
Yeah. Why don't I sub out my mail-in repairs? Good help is hard to find. And to be honest, if I could find someone who can do those mail-in repairs, then the person may as well go and send it to them anyway. This is something I'm kind of in. This is something I would consider, to be honest. Is if I knew someone who I knew was good for it and could do repairs, I would probably do a deal with them and say, I have more work than I can actually achieve. Let's make a deal. But again, this is probably stuff that this is stuff that I will look into next year, is my intention. I've got to sort out a bigger shop first. That's the thing. Despite the fact that the YouTube channel blew up 6 months ago, it's still going much too fast for me to actually deal with. That's the weird thing. Mainly just because I'm working. Mainly because I'm working full time, just as it is. So yeah.
And it's kind of a case that you don't have the space in your current place to take anyone else on.
No.
And it was a case that because you didn't have the space there, you couldn't naturally grow inside your current shop without other stuff that didn't require physical space in the shop. So it was a case of you never really planned for it. You never sort of had a aim in that. And then it was just kind of going off from that. And it's just like, it takes a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Nash Funk just brought up the Lewis Rossman new shop saga. My one would be a lot easier than that because I'm in a much simpler town and my requirements are significantly simpler. But yeah, I'm planning on not doing a Lewis, so to speak. So yeah.
Also, you have far fewer staff.
Yeah, that as well.
Staff are always difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Yeah, I just need a bigger shop. I need to. I'm really hoping that the last place I knew of that I had a lead on, I need to. The difficulty is my name has been put in with the landlord for a currently closed shop, However, I don't have their contact details myself because it was done on a wink wink nudge nudge contact. So I need to actually get hold of them and say, hey, I believe my name was put to you about a couple of weeks ago. I wondered if you'd had any thoughts on the offer that I had, you know.
As long as it doesn't end up being on the basis of a wink wink nudge nudge shop contract, I think
no,
you'll
absolutely
be
not.
fine.
The issue is that the shop itself is currently in a lease dispute, whereas the people who are currently in the shop, they try to initiate their break clause, but the paperwork was sent to the wrong place. And by the time that mistake was uncovered, the landlord said, "Oh, you've gone past your break clause now. We don't accept it."
That to me sounds like a landlord you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Though that's the problem, because it's clear the intention was there, and obviously if you get that original mail and see the dates on it,
possibly this is just what
then
I've
it's
heard.
kind of it's absolutely, and it's
Yeah.
obviously entirely hearsay, but it's kind of a case of if you can show that the intent was to initiate it at the correct time and stuff just went wrong, and you're going, nah, I'm not going to help you out.
Yeah.
Especially given the current climate.
Well, the thing is that if they are unable to get out of that lease, which is a long-term lease, basically the implication that I put in was that either A, I would be a new tenant lined up, so who cares? Just let them off the lease, and you've got someone ready to move in immediately. Or failing that, if the people are stuck in their lease, they can sub it out to me because they don't want the shop. So obviously, if they can sub it out to someone, that solves their problem as well. So that's the theory here, is that I've shown up and been like, I want to be in this shop. So either give me the lease or sub it to me. Either way, your problem is solved. I have come to be the solution to the problem that you guys have, which is a shop that neither of you want. So
I want the things that you don't want.
Yes.
Well, hold on.
So yeah. So that's pretty much it. So and I'm hoping that goes somewhere because, as I say, I like that shop. I would like it, and as I say, I walk past it on my way home from work, and I peer in through the window and be like, "Yeah, this would be nice." So yeah, but that's all I got at the moment. Unfortunately, it's the Shaftesbury High Street is wild, man. I thought right now it would be a buyer's market. I thought there'd be, there's been half a dozen shops that have gone empty, and I thought they would stay empty until at least spring. However, it just seems that everyone knows each other, and people keep jumping into those shops. And yeah, so at this point, I'm just like, what the hell, man? Yeah, it just be that way apparently. So it's become very difficult to actually. I thought it would just be as simple of just pick out the one I wanted, but yeah. The shop goes empty, you expect a let sign to appear in the window, and then before you know it, someone else is setting up in there, and you're like, what's going on? Like one of the shops that I wanted, a hairdresser is setting up in there right now. And I'm like, a hairdresser is opening a shop in the middle of a pandemic? What's wrong with you? So...
What's that about, specifically appearing in your kitchen at this time of year?
Yes. Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, that's
Can I
that.
see it? No.
Yeah. do.
Yes.
Right, let's see what's going on in the chat at the moment. Is it possible to test or measure a capacitor without desoldering it? Yeah, not really. As DNA Electronics said, really, it's got to be out of circuit and discharged. The problem with testing capacitors in circuit is that when you put your probes across the capacitor, especially with capacitors, which are often bypassing and stuff like that, your multimeter is very likely to find another way around between the probes that doesn't go through the capacitor, which means you're measuring another way through the circuit board, and that's the problem. So it's not that simple, unfortunately. You can often get some information, as DNA Electronics said. You can have a look with an ESR meter, and you can check for short circuits and stuff like that, but you're not really going to get an absolute measurement unless it's out of circuit. So,
kind of the thing of with testing things after faults is a case of you have to change one thing at a time, or otherwise you don't know what's fixed to the fault.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're gathering information, but you have to be systematic. Otherwise, you're not going to get a definitive answer. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of that case of sometimes the question is what was done to fix this, or what is the answer on this? Some of the times it's a case of, can I just fix it? If I change all of these things at once, is the problem gone? Yes, it is. Okay, that's good enough.
Indeed. Right. Oh, Ryzen 5 announcement. That's something that I think is definitely worth getting a discussion going on.
5000 series.
5,000. Yeah, Ryzen 5000 series. Yeah.
People are going to need to be slightly specific with it now, aren't we? Because obviously calling it Ryzen 5000, referring to it as Ryzen 5, is slightly less is drastically more likely that someone is going to be wanting to fit an R5 of the fifth generation.
A Ryzen. You just wait for like a 5500. You're going to have a Ryzen 5 5500X. No relation to the graphics card, the RX 5500 XT. Or no.
Or
whatever.
Or if there's a mid-range refresh, you end up with the R5 5550.
AF. Yeah. At any rate, well, the numbers on them look great. The prices on them, I saw some prices that were on the PowerPoint presentation, and those prices looked, to me, I was like, well, that hasn't blown my mind. This isn't like the RTX 3000 prices where we were just like, it costs how much? However, I looked at those prices and I'm like, that's a fair price. I think that's what the chip is worth.
Yeah, basically,
when can you
it's
buy
an
them?
increase
I
of
didn't
50.
see what availability was.
November 5th.
November 5th.
For everything.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, that's only a couple of weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, it's $50 increase in MSRP for the 5600, 5900, whatever it was. So yeah, so it was a case of, yeah, absolutely. The pricing is only up by $50.
Yeah,
but we're looking at, according to their numbers, substantial IPC increases and so on. So yes, that's a good.
I think AMD are. I think they're playing a fairly aggressive but justified game here, where they're just like, we have a very good line of CPUs. This is how much.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is how much they cost. Deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you going to do? Go to Intel and pay more for less? Yeah,
absolutely. It's a very valid. It's a very valid price increase, I think. Certainly, in the case of they're offering a better product, or certainly a very comparable product, and it's a lower cost. Certainly, when they're kind of going in the case of where we're actually charging $50 more this time, and it's a case of it seems entirely reasonable. But yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. The only thing I'm slightly saddened by is the fact that apparently the review release date is going to be the same as the chip availability, which is slightly annoying. I was hoping that they were going to do it the day before or like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Just for the people who are kind of on the fence.
Yeah, that's true, because then we could see the review and be like, yes, this is good. I'm going to buy one on release day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it should be, shouldn't it? The review should come out first, so we can see the review and be like, yes, I am absolutely going to camp the websites and hit the refresh button. Because now, of course, after, especially with what happened with the RTX 30 series, obviously, if you really want one of these chips, you're going to have to be finger on the trigger, I think.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I don't want to sit there hitting refresh on Amazon unless I know that it's going to be worth it. And so now I find myself thinking, am I going to buy a couple of these just on faith and just I'll put them in something kind of thing? Because I don't know. Or failing that, I'll be like, you know what? I don't care. They'll be available when they're available, because that's currently where I'm at with the RTX 30 series. I don't have one. I don't know when I'm going to get one. I'll buy them when I'm able to. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends, and the demand certainly for the 30 series was very high. It was a case that the supply levels that they were provided, according to various AIBs, was the same or slightly more than the supply that was given for the 20 series launch. So yeah, so it was kind of a case of it was slightly more supply, sold out even faster. So yeah, it shows that there was really strong demand for it. And I guess in a way kind of showed that the 20 series didn't really do that well.
Yeah.
Because everyone was so willing to jump out and buy the new one.
I think it's also just the price on the new one as well. You know,
well, yeah, absolutely.
Like at those prices, you basically couldn't lose. Even if there was zero improvement over the 20 series, it was cheaper than the 20 series. So why wouldn't you? You know.
Yeah, exactly. It was very much a case of, I mean, obviously, if you already owned a 20 series, it didn't make any sense. Just buying it on faith, if that makes sense, assuming the performance would be better.
Yeah, that's
especially
true.
Considering in the vast number of cases, the 20 series was already good enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the opinion, like a lot. I think a lot of people who've got 20 series cards, it's a case of no. If you've got a 20 series, you don't need to upgrade. And you know,
arguably,
people, yeah. For the vast majority of people, they're just upgrading just because they want the latest stuff. And you know, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to spend your money on, then fine. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's certainly not a bad. It's not explicitly a bad thing.
Yeah.
Arguably, it's a case of there's better things for you to be concerned about.
Yeah.
And there are better things that could use your money that would benefit more people and so on. But
yeah. I think if you got a 10 series, then that's definitely worth it. As Dermot Sweeney just pointed out, you know, like, you know, my 1070, I'm looking at that going sort of, oh, you know, I wouldn't mind a 3070. You know, I think once the supply of the 3070 has stabilized, and you know, once everything has settled down and we're happy that there's no issues with bypass capacitors on the back of the GPUs causing crashes and stuff like that, I could see myself buying one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of unknown.
Yeah. Although, of course, I don't technically need one. You know, there's nothing I super badly need in my computer at the moment.
Absolutely. I think it will be good.
Yeah.
Certainly because obviously with your streaming, you're occasionally having some minor issues. With
that's been an interesting thing as well, actually.
DS3.
Yeah, because you know, DNA Electronics just said, "Wait, what Big Navi has to offer." And the reason why I haven't considered AMD graphics cards is because no NVENC. Anyone who streams knows that NVENC is one of the most powerful tools you can have in your computer.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the amount of effort that NVIDIA are putting into tuning NVENC and actually tuning the tuning the actual encoder itself specifically for encoding gaming. Because it's a case of X264 was designed for films and things like that, and films are shot in a very particular way at specific frame rates, and you know, tend to, because of a very low frame rate by comparison, have much slower panning shots and things like that. So it's a completely different style of video to encode. So obviously there are lots of efficiency gains that you could make by specifically tuning for game encoding and things like that. And that's what NVIDIA have done. That's what NVENC does. And NVENC should look better now than X264 does.
I did think that the solution that Ryzen also had the same solution to that, because obviously now I've kind of got a Ryzen 3600 in my computer, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know, now I've got 12 threads. I don't need NVENC anymore. I can just X264 because I've got threads for days. You know. Yeah. However, as you pointed out, you know, there've been a couple of games, so that hasn't really quite worked out. I've been testing doing X264 game streams, and it works, but it's not as flawless as NVENC was. NVENC just doesn't miss a beat. And so, you know, that's making me go, you know, I'd love to see what Big Navi has to offer, but I know that I would be losing NVENC. But then on the flip side, if I drop, you know, if I get, like, part of me kind of wants to go out and buy a Ryzen 5700X and just say, I've got a brand new 5700X in my PC. Now I've got even more threads and even more IPC. Now I can definitely X264, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, yeah, you know, possibly go Big Navi. So, but on the flip side, again, I've kind of got the luxury of being able to bide my time at the moment. I don't have an urgent need to change any of this. So I can actually just wait and see what Big Navi has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that almost everyone is in the position where they can wait. Almost everyone is in the position where they can wait, and most of the people who say that they can't wait are just being impatient.
Yeah.
Arguably. Certainly, it's a case of when you're specifically using the machine for productivity, when you are earning money from it, and you can demonstrate in a business fashion the ROI on the faster rendering, on the faster output from the machine is less than 12 months. If the ROI on the increased volume of work pays off the card in less than 12 months, then yes, upgrading makes sense. You know, on a kind of yearly or 18-monthly cadence, or at least jumping to every new generation makes sense if the ROI is less than 12 months. However, if your return on investment for business is more than 12 months, it doesn't make sense to upgrade every time. It would make more sense to do it slower, because then you're not basically burning money.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, it depends on what your use case is. It depends on what you're kind of doing.
Yeah, I mean,
but
conversely,
and
I was going to say, you know, I've got a friend who's waiting to build a new computer. He's currently gaming on a laptop, which is just about doing what he needs it to do, but just not very well. He has a poor user experience at the moment. And he has had money at the ready for probably 4 months now. He's probably had money at the ready for about 4 months, and you know, it's just. And I was like, oh, we'll wait for the RTX 3000s. Now those have gone out of stock, and we're like, okay, we're waiting for them to come back in stock. And in the meantime, you know, new Ryzen's are just about to arrive, and now we're waiting until November for those, and they might go out of stock. When are we going to buy this PC? He's been waiting for months now. When are we going to pull the trigger on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the case of
he can
right
wait,
now,
though.
Yeah, but also kind of a case of you can buy bits around it. So it's like, obviously, you can get a power supply in ready. You can choose a case. You can grab some SSDs and things like that. You can build up all of that stuff, and you can have everything ready to kind of slot in. And then it's a case of...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a really good idea.
You can kind of be mostly built up, mostly ready, and it's a case of, obviously, you can just be sitting and waiting for stock to turn up for the 3080, 3090.
Yeah.
Grab that, stick that in there, and then it's kind of a case of, you know, either way, if you were to buy an X570 motherboard today, it doesn't matter, because there will be BIOS updates for Ryzen 5000 series to slot into it, so that's absolutely fine. And X570 boards, all but one or two of them, have massively overbuilt VRMs and things like that. So you're absolutely fine, even if you went like, I'm going to chuck in a 5950X and try and clock the balls off of it. Even if that was your aim, X570 is going to be absolutely fine, because they're inferring that the power usage of the chips are going to be basically identical.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point as well. Normally, I always say to people, no, don't buy bit by bit. Wait until you've got the money and then just buy the whole lot. However, right now, fortune seems to favour the opportunist who just who's just constantly looking at the market and going, that power supply's at a really good price right now. I'm going to buy it now, and then I've got it. And like case in point for this, and I think that might have been the way forward from the get-go. As long as you make sure you plan which motherboard you're going to buy very carefully, because a chap who The chap who owns the one of the builds that I did a cable tidy job on recently, who had the Corsair build that I tidied up, I was talking to him about his build. He built that at the end of 2019, and he told me about how he was buying parts, and he told me the price he paid, and I was like, yo, you paid how much for that? Like super low prices kind of thing. And he was just like, yeah, I was just constantly looking at special offers and one-day flash deals and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And he must have saved hundreds just because he was finger on the trigger, looking at prices, just buying things from various places, just at the moment when they were at really good prices.
Yeah, exactly. If you know very much the kind of a layout that you're roughly going for, you're kind of going, I'm roughly going for this group of motherboards, I'm going roughly for this group of graphics cards, things like that. It's very much a case you can kind of go, yeah, I'm buying an X570 roughly around here, and seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a case of if you've got the build kind of planned in the sense of I'm roughly grabbing this, I'm roughly grabbing this, I'm roughly grabbing this. Obviously you can jump on special offers, and if you're a bit flexible, you might suddenly see someone does a bundle deal and says, oh yeah, here's a i9 9900, i9-9900K letters. These names are getting annoyingly confusing now.
Yeah.
The top end Intel from
The
last
i9
year kind of thing. If someone has that and a motherboard and they suddenly bundle that together and it's like, oh, actually, it's not the motherboard I was looking for, but it brings the total build cost down by 50, 60, 70 quid.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense to jump on those those packages and things. So having a degree of flexibility, especially when you're buying one piece at a time, can, save a load of money.
I think that's especially true as well, just because also just as I thought things were getting to normal, I was speccing up a computer today and I was looking for power supplies, and once again, I can't find any of the power supplies I like. So it was, again, on that spec for that computer now is just, it's just whatever power supply I can find when I actually go to put it in the cart. So yeah, if you spot the components that you want there and then, buy it while it's there and while you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, absolutely. Because supply has been constrained by some level of manufacturing limit, but also by the fact that because demand has been so high and sustained at such a high level. So it's a case that in the US, I can't remember which website it was, something like Newegg and something like that. They were saying that every single day through March, through April, through May, they were seeing the same sales volume every day then as they were in the run up to Christmas each year.
That's nuts.
And just stuff like that is kind of like every single day they were selling greater volumes of stuff that month than they were expecting to sort of sell through in an entire month every day. And it's just like, what? Madness.
Yeah. Right, just rolling back a little bit. Antonio, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. For a pint each later as a thank you for the great videos and reviews of not only expensive but also cheaper gear. Remember, pubs close at 10. Thank you very much for the £10.
Yes, absolutely. Hilariously on that, I'm actually going out for a meal this evening.
Hey. Well, there you go. Based on the fact that the super chat goes into my pocket at the moment, I owe you a drink, Caradox. So I owe you several drinks, actually, absolutely. I think. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll make
Commenting,
sure.
Sorry, very quickly, I just saw someone saying about trying to buy a printer and waiting 5 to 6 weeks. I have just bought for our office 4 new Xerox Workstation 3335s. And yeah, they are fantastic mono lasers with built-in scanner and so on. Yeah, fantastic. And I ordered it on the Friday night at like 5:30, and it turned up on the Tuesday. So there is certainly supply out there. You just have to kind of pick what you're looking at. And in general,
supply out there or a
that was printersupply.com or something like that. I just found a random website that was selling the printer I wanted, and it happened to be and it was the website selling it at the cheapest price, so I just bought it.
Very well. Yep, fair enough then.
And it was a case of those. Yeah, absolutely. And I was just looking for mono lasers because buying anything other than a mono laser seems a bit silly.
Yeah,
considering what 99% of what people are doing.
Yeah.
Buying anything other than mono lasers is daft.
I don't like the idea of not having color capability. However, if you asked me the last time I actually needed to print in color, I couldn't tell you when it was.
Highlighters are £5 for a pack of 5.
It's kind of it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh, but I might want to, and I'm like, yeah, but you won't.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like how I used to always buy a laptop with discrete graphics in case I wanted to play games on it, and I never played games on it.
Absolutely.
I just want to quickly roll back as well. There was talk back there about not buying MSI and stuff like that, and I wanted to just quickly acknowledge that of just at the moment I feel like I'm kind of done with MSI as well. Because I've used some stuff. I used some MSI stuff on a recent build, and while it was fine, and that build will be fine, based on the slightly sketchy experience I've had with MSI products as of late, and also the MSI scalping scandal. For those of you who didn't hear this, MSI have a subsidiary company whose name I've forgotten, who sell their refurb and overstock stuff through eBay and other places like that. And that subsidiary was selling brand new MSI 30 series graphics cards at scalping prices. And it's a case of like, there's no way they didn't know what they were doing there.
Absolutely. It was very much a case that MSI was intentionally selling 3080s and 3090s at double MSRP through eBay.
Yeah, I think there are some people that might go, oh, maybe it was a case of the right hand not knoweth what the left hand doeth because subsidiary companies and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, there's no legitimate reason why they had those cards. No legitimate reason.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just like, So at the moment, I'm like, I really, really want to like MSI. But this year they've given me a lot of reasons to not like them, and I'm just like, when I'm speccing stuff up now, whenever I see MSI in the list of products, I'm like, I'm gonna roll by for a bit. I think, maybe after a while this will cool off, the dust will settle, and they'll say, okay, sorry about that, guys, and stuff, and they'll bring out some good products. But at the moment, I'm like, I'm probably gonna give them a miss for a bit.
Yeah, I've never particularly paid attention to which company is making the parts and so on. It's like, certainly for my computer builds and so on, I've basically always just gone, right, I want this processor. I want a 2700X. Buying that, guess what? The only people who sell that are AMD. Fine, that answers that one. I want an X470 motherboard. Right, what is the cheapest top-tier X470 motherboard? Right, it was a Gigabyte motherboard. Buy Gigabyte motherboard. Right, what is the cheapest 16 Gigabyte RAM kit that's at 3200 at CL15? Right, it's this one. Buy 2 of them. What is the cheapest 2 terabyte NVMe SSD? Right, buy that one. And just doing all of that over and over again. Yeah. And it was kind of a case of, I just did that and just went through and just buy the cheapest for each category of component.
Yeah. I think it's also worth, it also bears mention here, because I'm seeing bits of it coming up in the chat as well, is that if you've got MSI products and if they're working for you, great, no problem. And this is an important thing. Whenever a company does the bad thing, or whenever there's a bad review, or they have a bad product, or just something happens, you don't got to sell all your stuff that's got their name written on it. If you've got a product and if it's working for you, no problem, basically. And there's plenty of people, whenever I've had a falling out with Gigabyte, for example, and I've seen some Gigabyte products that were definitely less than stellar. However, I've also seen plenty of other Gigabyte products that were working as intended and have done an excellent job of what they were intended to do. So
exactly.
You've got to basically have a critical but not a mob mindset. Is, as I say, right now MSI are on my shit list, but this doesn't mean that all MSI products are no good. It just means that
absolutely.
if I've got 2 products that have the same feature set, one of them's made by MSI, one of them's made by another company, the chances are I'm gonna give my custom to the other company at the moment. you know.
Certainly when they're within, a stone's throw of each other in price.
Yeah, precisely.
Is most of his stuff is anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a case of it's also kind of a case of a lot of the time, rolling back to what we're saying, you don't need to replace stuff and you don't need to upgrade anywhere near as often as reviews and YouTube videos and big popular creators and stuff kind of seem to infer that you do. Because obviously it's a case of if you've got a 4th gen Intel or, you've got a 2nd gen Ryzen, you don't have to replace that just because newer stuff's come out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, replace if there is a gain that will benefit you and you've got the money to spend, then sure, consider it. But yeah, certainly I see a lot of people. There's a massive obsession with bottlenecks these days. Everyone's just like bottlenecks everywhere, and I'm just like, there's always going to be a bottleneck. There's always going to be a limitation until you're at the point where you're spending thousands and thousands on your computer. So,
but then the bottleneck will be the latest available hardware because it's a case of there is a finite performance out of each component.
That's just it, And like I saw that there was a chap in the chat earlier on who said he said I've got an i5 8400 and a 1070 Ti. Should I upgrade? And I'm like, that i5 8400, probably not the hottest CPU. It's probably holding back that 1070 Ti. But the question
dependent on resolution.
Precisely.
Because if you're playing at 1440, it probably isn't really.
Yeah. Is it doing what you need it to do? If now, like, for example, with me, I've as I've said last week, I've recently gone up to 1440p and I'm seeing the limitations of my 1070 non-Ti. And so right now, I'm thinking, I don't need, it's still doing what I need it to do. I'm just not, it's just, I can see that graphics card is my next bottleneck. Now I don't need to replace it, but I could replace it. So the question there is with that 8400 and that 1070 Ti, it's a case of, well, are you getting the frame rates that you want in the games that you're playing? If your frame rates are ducking slightly in the games that you're playing at, say, 1440p, and you're like, I don't want that frame rate to be ducking. I want that to be the maximum refresh that my monitor can do. In which case, you'd probably benefit from sticking a new CPU in there, and you could stick in, say, a 9600K. Or you could put in a 9700K into that same motherboard, I would imagine, because if you've got an 8400, then you've got a Z370 motherboard, I would imagine. You can probably drop in a 9th gen Intel, and you will probably get higher frame rates. I don't know, you'd have to look at the numbers, but whatever. Exactly. You could do that. However, again, it's a case of if your computer is doing what you need it to do, then you don't need to upgrade it.
Yeah, that's the most important part. It's a case of, is it meeting your requirements?
Yeah.
And I also think, certainly for computers that are aimed towards gaming, you want to end up with a GPU bottleneck.
Yeah.
You want your GPU to be the thing that is limiting the frame rates.
Yeah.
Because GPU bottlenecking, hitting the GPU being pegged at 100%, is a much more consistent, gives a consistent frame rate, gives consistent frame time. So, that's the more important thing.
It's an awful lot easier to upgrade your graphics card as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's a case that kind of everything is designed, certainly in gaming, for it to be GPU limited in a sense, because you get the more consistent frame times and so on when you are GPU limited. Whereas obviously when you're CPU limited, you'll get massive frame time spikes. And everything will kind of feel like it's locked up and feel like it's hanging. So it's kind of, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
But aiming to have a slightly weaker GPU by comparison is probably the better place to looking for bottlenecking.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
So it's kind of, and I think it also depends on where people are kind of pushing, because if people are pushing now to 4K where they've never been at that point before, and they are on 1080p currently, it's kind of a case of they are going to need to massively upgrade on the GPU side, compared to how much I'll need to upgrade on the CPU side because of the loading, because of where the load is changing. Because whilst, yes, it's 4 times the pixels, etc., the power needed is going to be much more on the GPU side than on the CPU side, because you're going to become GPU limited much earlier at much lower frame rates. So you don't need to push as many frames with a CPU.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely fair. Yeah. Dark Rose said they used to have an FX 6350. Yes, that definitely needed an upgrade. Every now and then I see someone who's just like, oh, the FX CPUs were great. And I'm like, no, they're not. I had one. It was awful.
the FX CPUs, the 6 and 8 core ones,
yeah,
I thought were really good when they came out. The first year or two they were out.
They were good 8 years ago.
Because it was a case of, at the time, I had a very specific use case for them. I was doing a lot of stuff that paralleled in precisely the way that they worked nicely for paralleling stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
But they would then crap 3 years later for Intel's new parts, because Intel's new parts built, basically just deleted the FX chips by like 50%. It was like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I went, because it was a case of I went first gen i7, so 86, so an 860, 860, I don't know, i7 860, the very first generation of i7s. Then I went to an FX 830, 8750, I can't remember, something like that, whatever the top end AMD 8 core one was, was, and then I went to 4th gen Intel.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it was kind of a case of a really weird stepping I did on processors around that time, and then stayed on 4th gen Intel until 2nd gen Ryzen.
Yeah. Someone mentioned about buying second-hand parts as well, and yeah, I think the second-hand market is a great place to be. I can't remember the last time I bought a new graphics card for myself, like actually a new one, because the R9 280X that I was running in my FX rig, that was secondhand, and again that served me well for a couple of years. Then I was running a GTX 960, again secondhand, that served me well for a couple of years. My 1070 was a secondhand eBay purchase, and that has served me well for the past 2 years. I've had that graphics card, and even now, I'm only sort of going, oh, it's getting on a bit, because I'm like, oh, my game is only running at 120 frames per second, and it's just like, I don't really need a new graphics card at all. I'm just whinging.
Absolutely.
And even so, yeah, secondhand graphics cards are great. You can pick up some really good deals. You're always going to roll the dice on getting a lemon. That's just how it be with secondhand stuff. However, if you're willing to roll the dice, then you can pick up a really good bargain, and you can get a lot of good performance for not very much money.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I was looking. That's worth keeping in mind.
Yes, because I was looking at eBay the other day for Vega 64s.
Don't tell me you're thinking of buying one.
Yes, again, because of specific use cases, because of the way the AMD GPUs are built, they do asynchronous compute better at relative price points.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a case of £100 on a Vega 64 was giving the equivalent performance of a 2060.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
2060 is £300.
Yeah.
So it was a case of, for the same relative compute performance in a single application.
Yeah.
Single application, absolutely. I'm not saying that this is in any way
Don't
a
buy
good
a Vega
idea.
64.
I'm not saying that it's a good idea in any way, shape, or form to do it, but it was a fact of in that single situation, buying a secondhand card that someone was getting rid of for like £70,
yeah,
would have netted you the same performance as a £300 card. So it's kind of that case of, if you have very specific use cases as well, you can look at stuff which people go, oh, this is crap.
Mm. Well, that's
because in specific use cases, stuff will be massively outperforming what people think it should.
That's the funny thing. When I've owned two R9 280Xs, and I sold both of them in the middle of the Bitcoin mining boom. And both of them I sold for what I believe to be obnoxiously inflated prices, just because I sold them on eBay, and I'm like, who the hell is buying this card? This is a bad card in this day and age. No one wants this card. But people were buying them because they're good mining cards. And that's what I sold. I sold them to people who are obviously going to use them for mining. And so, yeah, use case is important. However, I know two people with Vega 64s, and their computers crash daily. So, let's see.
Yes, I was looking at eBay, and it amazes me how much some of these companies that, you know, clearly get in like surplus stock and things like that from like liquidating companies, who are like, oh yes, this graphics card is known faulty. Bidding starts at £150. I'm like, it's known faulty, and you're trying to sell it for £150.
Yeah, I see stuff
when
like
I can
that.
buy a brand new one with manufacturer's warranty for 130
Who's
or like
buying that stuff?
110.
Like, surely,
And
if
I'm
they're
like,
asking this money for it, people are paying that for it. Do you think they're just capitalizing on idiots?
I don't understand how you can be sufficiently dumb to buy something that's broken. Why would you buy something that's broken, knowing it's broken,
for more than the retail cost
of a brand new one?
Yeah,
of literally the same one. I don't get it. It makes no sense. I can understand in certain situations buying a faulty one, knowing that it's faulty, if you know specifically what the fault is on it, when it's like a 15-year-old part or something like that, and you're like, this is faulty in a way that doesn't matter because the parts that are faulty are not the parts I need from this card. So that kind of a case of, you know, or it's like I need this industrial system to continue working. It was last sold 15 years ago. I now have to pay £60,000 for a RAM module because it works with one RAM module last made 15 years ago. You know, stuff like that. I get there are situations like that, but most of the time just...
Yeah, that's fair enough.
People are daft.
And Antonio says, I'm going to be upgrading my 7-year-old FX 4300 and R7 250 to a Ryzen 3100 or 3600 with a 1660 Super. That new build's going to change your world, man. That's going to be really sweet. I would try and go for the 3600. I think that 3600 is not going to cost you much extra and give you a lot more bang for your buck.
Absolutely. If it's possible, also look at how much a 2600X or 2600 will be in your region, because a 2600 or 2600X, even if it's new pricing based off of UK pricing, is better value than the 3100 because it's faster in single-threaded tasks, faster in multi-threaded tasks, and the same or ever so slightly cheaper than the 3100. So it's kind of a case of, yes, it's a generation old, but it's faster in single-threaded, faster in multi-threaded, and the same price or slightly cheaper. So you might as well have the slightly more performance.
Yeah, I've done a couple of builds with 2600s in them this year, actually. I put a 3100 in the build that I just did. However, I don't regret that. But yeah, I think the 2600 is still a very, very valid choice right now for just a cheap gaming computer. When,
absolutely.
You know, as I say, because when you're doing a cheap gaming computer that's, say, sub £700, maybe even sort of going toward 500 or 600 quid, you know, the CPU is where you're going to have to cut corners, because down in that region, you know, getting as much of your budget into the graphics card is everything, especially because also, like, if you can grind down the cost of everything else and fit something like a 1660 Super in there, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Whereas if you blow all your money on a bigger CPU and you end up with like a 1650 Super, you're going to grow out of that card in 6 months. Is my prediction there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of it. I think it's also the case of kind of knowing what your future budget is going to be. Yeah. So obviously, if you kind of know in the future I'm going to be able to spend another 300 insert currency here on a new graphics card, it kind of almost makes sense to kind of go, oh, I'll buy the processor tier up and force myself to be a GPU tier down on this budget, because I can sell the GPU for 70 currency here, 100 currency here, and buy a new GPU for 300 currency and end up with a much, much better system. But it took 7 months to build it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had a functional computer for those 7 months.
Yeah. Petri Hangas, sorry if I just butchered your name, says, hello from Finland. Hi, Finland. Is AMD builds more common these days, or is Intel still number one at your shop? I'm mostly doing AMD at the moment because they're better bang for buck. However, interestingly, the computer that I spec'd up today, which I really need to send an email to the customer for this evening, I'm building Intel because we're building this computer specifically for doing Lightroom, which is Adobe Lightroom for photography. And the Adobe products consistently favor clock speed and Intel over AMD at the moment. So I'm building that with I'm putting a 9600 AF in there, which is the best bang for buck at the price point that we're building to. And yeah, as I say, normally I would be like, no, Ryzen for days, mate. However, on that particular one, I know for a fact that the programs that they're running favor Intel more, so I'm building it Intel. However, it was slightly more annoying because when I started speccing it up immediately, like I stuck the CPU in my Amazon basket, and it was like box no cooler, and I'm like, oh man, I got to buy a CPU cooler for this because it's really nice when you buy AMD and you've got a box cooler that comes with it that is fit for purpose. Not great, but does the job. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's an interesting comment though. With the AMD, with the 5000 series, the 37, 39, and 3950 are no longer coming with coolers.
Yeah, see, that's fine because I think once you get up to that kind of area, you're gonna. Yeah, exactly. You know,
if you're not fitting aftermarket coolers on 37, 39, and 3950s, you are massively doing it wrong.
Yeah, I suppose arguably you could say
5700s, 5900s, and 5950s.
Numbers. I suppose arguably you could say the same thing about Intel though, to an extent. It's just like, well, you know, I'm buying a 9600 KF, which is supposed to be a gaming CPU. You know, surely I'm going to want to put aftermarket cooling on that. And in this case, it's like, well, actually, I don't. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I might be being unfair there.
Oh yeah, the 5800s. Yeah. 5800.
Yeah.
Numbers, letters.
Yeah, there's too many of them. But yeah, so yeah, Intel does still have a place. And a lot of people. Yes, Intel are taking a lot of bloody noses this year from AMD. But you know, their products are still entirely valid as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a place for them, and also
it depends also on the gaming side of what the machine is doing. If you are a 1080p 300 FPS gamer, you need to be on Intel. You need to be on a 10600K clock to the balls or a 10700. K clock to the balls, you know, that kind of region, because the frame rate will be higher because the sort of CPU limit is higher, even when your GPU limit, the GPU limit, even if your GPU limited is higher. Yeah. Weirdly, because numbers, letters, weirdness.
Yeah. I think it depends if you're laser focused on that as well, because the one thing that really frustrates me about the mantra of Intel is still faster for games is that while, yes, when your computer is running just the game, you will get a higher frame rate with an Intel CPU, effectively. Well, generalizing.
Well, the CPU limit, the artificial quote-unquote CPU limit, will be higher on the Intel side, irrespective of everything else.
Yes. However, the thing that a lot of people very rarely point out, which bothers me, is that for 99% of people, you're not just running the game. You know, most of the people in the chat here, we're all gamers. We're not just running the game. Like when I'm playing games on my computer, I'm not just running the game. I've got the game on one monitor, and even if I didn't have a second monitor, in the background, you've got Chrome open, you've got Discord open, you might have a Discord voice call on the go. You've probably got Steam open in the background. You've probably got some stuff, some management stuff doing your RGB or whatever in the background as well. Your computer is never just playing the game.
Sure.
And that means that AMD's multi-core stuff, all the extra cores you've got with your AMD CPU, that's why I think AMD is going to feel faster for most people, even though as an actual just games, you know, I think those extra cores are actually going to pay you dividends there in real life.
I think, well, certainly now that we've got 4-core 8-thread at i5 and higher, it doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah.
And I think the perfect example is the fact of, on my computer right now, even doing a Discord video call with a vast number of Chrome tabs and stuff all open and doing stuff in the background, I'm still only seeing CPU utilization reported by Windows of 7 or 8%.
True. Yeah.
So even if all of that stuff's happening in the background, that's a single thread that can handle all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So even if I have 8 threads running at a drastically higher clock speed with gaming clock speeds and whatever on an Intel side, I'm not really going to notice any difference.
I think I'm neglecting to realize the fact that in the past, let's say the past
2 generations.
In the past 2 generations, we've had substantial improvements in IPC that has made has made this a bit of a non-issue, I suppose, hasn't it? Yeah.
Intel has finally actually given people enough threads and cores.
Yeah, that's just it, because that was one of the reasons why I was sort of why I was having a little bit of buyer's remorse over my i5 8600K that I used to be running, because that was just 6 cores, 6 threads, which at the time when I bought it, I was like, oh yeah, 6 core CPU, you know, that's hunky-dory. And then almost immediately after that, everyone was running around with double-digit thread counts. And suddenly my 6 core, 6 threads seemed really wimpy by comparison. So,
yeah, absolutely. And the fact that i5s are now 6 cores, 12 threads, you know, makes that way less of a problem. Multitasking in the very light sense that people do whilst gaming is happily handled by all of the hyper-threaded extra threads. So yeah, I think the multi-core enhancement thing, saying, oh yeah, there are more cores and therefore more threads on the AMD side, makes it better in real life, doesn't actually make any difference now that Intel have actually massively upped their core and thread counts.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So I think it depends. Obviously, you need to pick what is right for your budget and what is right for your use case. But overall, as a generalization, I think it's a case you're going to find that a reasonably equivalent tier of AMD component and computer is going to be less expensive. So you can get that comparable performance for a lower budget.
Yeah.
Because the 3600 is, we'll call it £170. I think it's 170, 180-ish at the moment.
Yeah, closer to 180.
That sort of region. Yeah. The comparable i5 is 210.
Yeah.
So that's £40 more. So that £40 is now half of the cost of your RAM.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And just stuff like that.
And one could argue that you're going to need a cooler with the Intel i5 as well, whereas the 3600 comes with one, which you may or may not be using, but if you're...
However, the 3600... arguably, you don't need a better cooler on it. The stock cooler will be enough for a 3600.
If you're on a budget, then the 3600 becomes even cheaper because it doesn't need an extra cooler. So yeah. I mean, it's also I think there's another point as well that got me thinking there. Jesse James said sort of, it's all biased with tech shows saying that AMD is the best and stuff like that. And like, I think the other thing as well is it got me to thinking of. You know, I looked at that comment. I was like, okay, well, what are people saying and stuff like that? It got me to thinking that it's easy for YouTube channels and stuff like that to show up all the benchmarks and say, sort of, look, this bar is longer, therefore Intel is shit now, kind of thing. But the other thing as well is, sorry, it's taken me a long time to figure out how to phrase this, is longevity. Right now, if you buy, if you buy an AMD CPU and Intel came out tomorrow with something that was slightly better, that's not really a big deal because it won't be long before AMD come out with something that is slightly better than that. Whereas I think the last time that this was actually a big issue, which is still recent history as far as I'm concerned, was the FX days. Because during the FX era, the reason why I became, I infamously had zero interest in Ryzen 1000 or 2000 at the time because I was super, super burned by AMD because I had an AMD FX8 CPU for good 5 or 6 years in my computer, and I became very, very jaded by it. And the thing about that is that I was stuck in a completely dead-end platform with there was nothing I could do about it. Like, upgrading to an FX9 would not have solved my issue in the slightest. It just would have, And meanwhile, all of my friends had Intel rigs that were running circles around me, and they were getting new CPUs every year from Intel. There were new releases every year. There were better chipsets every year, and just everything was on the up and up. And I'm just like, man, fuck AMD, So
yeah, I mean,
however,
both for AMD and Intel, it would have been complete new rebuilds, new motherboards, new processors, etc.
Yeah,
but
however,
it was a case that at least there were new motherboards and processors actually being released.
Yeah, exactly. There was actually new stuff available. Whereas now, by comparison, both AMD and Intel are both aggressively releasing new products as quick as they can manage. I mean, obviously, Intel is struggling a bit where they've got issues with their process and stuff, but that's just because they're figuring out the logistics and the production kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not because, unlike, AMD at the latter end of the FX days, they just didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So
there was literally nothing.
Yeah. Whereas now that's not the case. We've got strong competition. It's a really exciting time for custom computers.
And it's good that there is this back and forth battle that, this 6 months of the year, this company is faster. This 6 months of the year, this company is faster because they've most recently launched new products. It's good that that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's good that there's not a clear answer on who is winning.
Yeah. And
because it means that everyone is winning. There is no bad product. There is a slightly less optimal, but it's no longer a bad product versus what you are forced to put up with.
Yeah, and also as such, that means that if someone bought one and then was suddenly sort of thinking, again, I've had people who bought Intel 9th gen or 10th gen and were just like, and who have said to me, do you think I should have gone AMD? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter because you've got a great product and a great computer. Because everyone is on the AMD bandwagon, that does not prevent your computer from being a great system.
Absolutely.
And fulfilling your requirements.
It's, again, still the case of it doesn't matter if someone is better, as long as it's meeting your requirements. And that's kind of a personal development statement as well. It doesn't matter if someone else is better at X, Y, and Z than you are. It doesn't matter if someone is better at ABC than you are. As long as you are improving and as long as you are enjoying yourself and as long as you're doing things that you like, why does it matter if someone else is doing better? As long as you're achieving your goals and as long as you're meeting your needs, it doesn't matter. You should only really be comparing with yourself to show that you are progressing and that you are learning and you are improving and you are developing.
Yeah.
So but yes, just say on about the back and forth, Intel Rocket Lake, which I think should be their first desktop CPUs at 10 nanometer.
Is this hypothetical 11th gen?
If that's what it's called, should be coming out Q1 2020, which means it should be announced by March.
Okay, yeah.
Well, should be announced by April. So, yeah.
Second quarter.
No, well, it should be announced Q1, which will be by April. Because April is the fourth month. Yes. And there are 12 months and a quarter of 12 is 4.
Q1 then.
So it should be announced no later than April.
Okay, yes.
If it's coming Q1. If it's coming
Yeah.
Q1.
That could
So
potentially
that's what
be
I'm saying.
very
So
exciting.
if that happens, it could be very interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
it will be interesting to see if Intel have. I mean, certainly. I mean, the 10th gen it's a strong generation for Intel. Given all of the problems they have right now, they have made a very impressive product with seemingly not a lot to work with, because of we're fully aware that they have ragged everything they can out of their 14 nanometer process. So the fact that the 10th gen was at even an improvement at all shows that they've still got some great engineering going on. So,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a case that will be very interesting to see what we get next year. It's not going to change my purchasing decision, and I'm still going to be buying 5000 series Ryzen.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of, it's just very interesting to see that it's coming so soon after, especially considering 10th gen or 10,000 series Intel only launched Q3 this year.
Yep. Yes, that is true. It will have been a short generation if they're out by that time. Yeah. Fair enough. Segueing slightly onto a topic that I think might be interesting. Amit Kumar D, sorry if I'm butchering your name, says, any solutions for Intel UHD 620 stutter issues after the Windows 2004 update? Tried new drivers as well as older drivers. Neither of them fixes it. UHD, that's onboard graphics, isn't it? UHD 620. Yeah. So taking this as a topic of interest for just Windows 10 build 2004, which I myself have not had any significant issues with, but a lot of people broadly consider 2004 to be a bit of a lemon. And I did encounter one issue, which was one of the capture cards I used was completely broken by the 2004 update. They have since released a driver update that fixed that, but still, it did prove to me that there are some issues with 2004. First question, which you might know the answer to, Caradog. I think I saw here that 2008 has been released. Have you seen that? I saw someone in the Discord mention it.
If it hasn't rolled out to insiders yet.
Oh,
and if it hasn't rolled out to insiders in the dev builds, I imagine it's not rolled out to stable.
Yeah,
because I literally just WinVered as you were doing it just to see. And it's a case of on that, I am still on 2004 build 2023-1.
Are you on fast ring or slow ring?
I'm on dev channel, which is the old fast.
Yeah. So if you don't have it, it's not out, basically.
Yeah, okay, I would imagine I should have it.
Yeah,
it might be a case of because I know there's some weird stuff about the build updates. If you're on like the skip ahead channel, you'll skip to 2000 H2, which will be 2010, I guess, or 2010 build or something. I don't know. So it's going to be a bit odd, but I don't know exactly.
Okay, so that answers that question. Is that so 2004 is still basically the current one. Well, to answer the original question then, Amit, I would legitimately suggest dropping to 1909. I would track down an ISO for 1909, and I would drop down to that, and then wait for the next build.
As far as I'm aware,
if you don't have a stable driver in 2004 by now, you're probably not going to see one. Because 2004 has been out for long enough now that as far as I was concerned, any issues with it had been fixed. So if you still got issues with 2004 that haven't been fixed, I would drop to 1909 and sit tight for 2008 or 2009, whichever comes out.
It's a case of, as far as I'm aware, 2004 is still an opt-in update. It's still a voluntary opt-in update.
I've seen
Microsoft is saying 1909 is effectively the latest forced version. Effectively,
I've still seen mixed results. A lot of computers I've got that are coming in for repair have got 2004 on them, and I've seen several of them asking to do the 2004 update. However, I'm still seeing many with 1909 on them. So it's been really, by now, this late into the cycle of the current build, I would expect to see everyone on this build by now. So obviously there's still been a very, very slow rollout if I'm still seeing people on 1909. But it is trickling out through Windows Update. I think it's just Microsoft doing their incredibly selective thing where some people get it and some people don't.
Mm-hmm. But it's good. They need to be very selective, ultimately, just because there are so many users and so many billions of combinations of hardware and so on.
Yeah.
And also so many people.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm super sad to see... Yeah, you carry on.
I was just going to say, and the sheer number of people who fuck with Windows and then blame Microsoft.
Yeah, true.
It's just sheer number of people who are like, fuck all the telemetry stuff, I'm uninstalling this, I'm nuking services, I'm ripping stuff out the registry, and then go, my computer doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, this is...
No shit, you deleted part of the OS.
I've seen a lot of people who are running all this debloat stuff and then complaining that stuff doesn't work, and I'm like, stop it. So yeah, I entirely agree with that. I have noticed a lot of people in the chat are pointing out that apparently they dropped Xbox 360 controller support. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that? What was wrong with that? Have you got a newer controller yet? 'Cause you were using a 360 controller for ages, weren't you?
I've got the Elite Series 2.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Yeah.
I've been running that for... I bought that the day after, 2 days after they went for sale.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. It was also a case of, I had a Steam controller before that.
Yeah. Fair enough, Skis.
Because they were cheap. And I was just like, yeah, it was cheap. And
on that note, for everyone who's got a 360 controller, then it's like, if you want a cheap controller, the PDP Xbox One controller, wired controller, is like £24 or something. They're not too expensive to replace, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a case of all the official Xbox One wireless plus Bluetooth plus Xbox Wireless One is $39.99 in the UK.
That's what I'm running, and I really like this controller actually, and it works great over Bluetooth. Yeah. Although I have to admit, I feel like it kind of nickel and dimes you, this controller, because I bought it for about £40. I'm just like, official one. It feels really good in my hands and stuff. However, really, you need a battery pack for it. And so I ended up buying the Play Wireless battery pack for it. That was another £20 for a poxy little LiPo battery that was the official one. And it works well over Bluetooth, but only if you're familiar with Bluetooth kind of thing. Because now and then you've got to repair it. And as Bluetooth, you know how Bluetooth is sometimes now and then it does something weird and you're like, oh, I've got to repair it. Not a big deal, but whatever. And if you want the wireless adapter, that's another £20 or so. So what bothers me about the Xbox controller is that the basic price for it is really good, but if you want everything that it can be, it actually ends up costing you closer to £80, I think.
I guess.
Which bothers me.
Or a case of you buy 2 AA rechargeable Naimis from Samsung for £8.
I guess you could,
and then you just charge them over USB, and then you just plug it in via USB, and it recharges the double A's.
Can it do
Ta-da!
That? Can it recharge double A's?
The Xbox 360 wireless one could, and also the original Gen 1 Xbox One controller could.
Oh, now I feel like
the Gen 2 one The Gen 2 one comes with a built-in battery.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Or at least it certainly was a case of they were telling you that they could do that. If it can't, again, that's them saying, yes, it can do this stuff, but then it can't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, DNA says it can't do that. Yeah, don't know. Would have to. Your mileage.
But also the case of also kind of a case of you can buy like the Samsung AAA or AA 4-packs with a charger for like £9.
Yeah,
£10.
Just use double A's. Yeah,
it's kind of a case of.
That might be a better option anyway, just because by the same token, like just because of the fact that despite having the charge and play battery and stuff in this, I still have a box of double A's in my desk drawer just in case I get caught short. So it's like if you have to have some AA batteries on hand just in case your battery goes flat mid game, you may as well have just been running it on AA's in the first place. Although,
I mean, that's the thing I like about this.
Because, I mean, initially I was running it on AA batteries, and I was playing Streets of Rage 4, and I burnt through a pair of AA's in 24 hours. And I'm like, that's no bueno. However, that was playing Streets of Rage 4, which had the rumble running for most of the game. It's buzzing in your hand while you're playing because you're beating people to a pulp in Streets of Rage. So
yes.
After I burnt through that pair of batteries, I'm like, I'm kind of not surprised, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, I realised this was like 120, 130 pound, but it does feel really good. It's got the inbuilt battery, and for me, the inbuilt battery lasts a month.
Yeah,
month and a half.
I was going to say,
and I play for it maybe an hour and a half each day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's like if it's doing an hour to an hour and a half most days, well, 5 days a week, it's kind of a case of I'm happy with that. And also it runs off of USB. And also it supports fast charge.
Yeah,
so it's like
I have a suspicion that it's expensive, but it's worth the money. And I can believe that as well, because this thing, going back, like when I first got my one, I went on eBay and I bought the cheapest Xbox One controller battery I could find, which is this guy here, which fitted in. There's a couple, the third-party ones, you can get third-party ones which are sort of built into this battery cover plate and replace the battery cover plate on the controller, or you can get these inbuilt ones. And I wanted this inbuilt one because I wanted to use the original cover because it would look nicer, and then I wouldn't have to find somewhere safe to keep this thing. And so I bought this one. It was £5. Unsurprisingly, it's not very good. It was bollocks, and it lasts for maybe 3 hours. It was proper bad. Now the interesting thing is, then I bought the official Microsoft one. So that's the proper official Microsoft one. This one feels lighter in my hand than the cheapo one, but this one lasts for ages as well. Even despite the fact that it's also a tiny little battery, I think this is like maybe 1200 milliamp hours. It also lasts a decent amount of time. So like I'm complaining about the Microsoft accessories being expensive and them nickel and diming you, but despite the price, I think you do get your money's worth out of them. So, and like, while I'm going to be happy with this controller for a while, however, after saying sort of, oh, who the hell would buy the Elite controller? That costs huge amounts of money. I have to admit, I kind of could see myself buying an Elite controller in the future. The next time I need a new one, when I've killed this one, I could see myself getting an Elite controller. Xbox controllers don't have charge circuits. Yes, you're correct. Yeah. So for the AA's, they've got the charge circuit for these ones, because you can see it's got extra pins between the two pins. So yeah, I think you're correct there. I think I can believe that the 360 could charge batteries, but the Xbox One can't because it was designed for a LiPo battery.
The thing I like is that you get this stuff as well.
See, so I don't care about all of that.
Oh yeah, no, I don't particularly care, and it's not a purchasing decision, but I just like the quality of that and the very reassuring sound you get. Hold on, can I?
Oh, okay, ASMR.
Oh no. But just the fact
I heard that.
The fact that it's a very satisfying noise, and it's a decent quality noise as well. I don't care about the feature, and I just run the standard ones on there. Yeah. They're not, the fancy edge gamer textured things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a case of I just like that it's an option.
Yeah.
And I like that, they were like, well, maybe you want a traditional D-pad.
Oh yeah, they've got the
original, or maybe you want the flat textured thing.
It gives you
can
choice.
Swap, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I like the fact that it's got 3.5mm on the bottom. That actually appears as a Bluetooth headset.
Oh, it appears as a Bluetooth headset?
Yeah. So if you plug...
cool. I didn't know, because I was going to say my one's got that as well, but I didn't know that was a thing. I just assumed...
So it appears as a Bluetooth headset.
That's really cool. I'm going to have to test that at some point. I didn't
know
that.
So it's just like dumb little things like that. I'm like, it's not particularly useful, but it's kind of cool. And I was just like, I was playing around with something and I was just like, I wonder if I can. I plugged in headphones into it and heard my PC audio through my controller, and I was just like, oh my god.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that, because the problem with using like Xbox accessories with your PC is you get the feeling that you're getting half an experience because you're supposed to use it with an Xbox. And it's really cool that Microsoft have said, no, we will make this work with Windows as well as it works with an Xbox. That's cool. Just a quick thing I just want to pop up there, just to going back to the battery thing. DNA Electronics just said, no, the 360 would not charge AA's. The the Microsoft packs used AA's, but it charged via pins on the back. So, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
I was utterly wrong about that. Because the 360 packs I have are just standard like connector things, I just presumed they charged over them because that's logical to me.
Yeah. Interesting.
And obviously the fact of they could have very easily had a charge circuit that just detects the voltage of the cells.
Yeah.
And just gone,
it's
these cells started at 1.5 volts, therefore we will disable the charge circuits.
It's not complicated to charge a battery. Yeah.
Yeah. But also about protecting against charging non-rechargeables.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
I haven't charged non-rechargeables in a long time. I should probably see what they do these days.
LiPo all the things. LiPo everything. Yeah. Yeah, very well. Let's see. How's COVID affected you and your work as an independent IT shop? COVID hasn't had a massive impact on me, to be honest. During the lockdown, business did fall flat. However, I had enough to keep me going, so it wasn't a big deal. Right now, it's business as usual, to be honest. And in the shop, I'm just being careful. You know, it's masks on in the shop. I clean all the laptops anyway, so it's easy to sort that out. So yeah, and while they're talking about doing another short lockdown in the UK, we're not sure if it's going to happen or not, but I'm not particularly concerned about that because I've got a backlog of work anyway that will easily carry me through that period. So not something that I'm super worried about, but yeah, it does. However, I do miss the days before it was a thing. I'm getting bored of this, which might seem like a very entitled thing to say, but I think we all know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting bored of this. Yeah.
Yes. But hey, I was fishing through the George just putting that back, and I was just like, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, you used to be an XDA nerd, didn't you? Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. There's I cleared out that drawer and binned a bunch of boxes.
How many HTC phones are in there?
In there currently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, is Melbourne back in lockdown? I thought Australia was doing all right. There's 6
no,
in there.
they've had a local lockdown again because of local cases.
Boo. Oh well. Well, hopefully everyone in Melbourne comes through that okay. Good luck to all of you. Yeah. The southwest or east. Yep, the southwest, the Jurassic Coast is a very nice place of the UK. It's one of the things that I like living down here. It's a nice place.
Yes, I think 6.
Yeah.
XDUI. I can't remember what this one's called. I think it's the Trio. 1 second. The name is printed conveniently on the back.
While Caradog prepares his...
Hermes. One of the Hermes. I can't remember which Hermes it is, but one of them.
All right. While Hugh prepares his XDAs. Oh, there it is. Ooh. Oh, it's a slider.
With an actual full QWERTY.
That's all right, actually. I think those could have been a thing, because that keyboard is big enough to be used as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because... Hold on. Where? There.
Yeah.
So, yes. That, then just M7, M8, M9, HTC Desire HD.
If you hadn't noticed, Caradog believed in HTC as a company.
I have owned 32 HTC phones, 33 HTC phones. So yes, a reasonable number.
Quick one. Secret Carper asks, what are my thoughts on the Corsair 275R Airflow? I like it. I have done a video on it. If you search my channel for it, I've got a review of it. I like that case. I think it's a good case. I think it's excellent value for money. The front panel is a bit plasticky, but I like the look of it, it's a controversial look. A lot of people go, oh no, I think that front panel is hideous. Personally, I like it. If you like the look of it, buy it. It's a good case, in my opinion. So yeah. Let's see. Stephen G was asking me about soldering and stuff like that. I'm always working on my soldering skills. And contrary to popular belief, I do use flux. A lot of people keep spamming comments saying, oh, I use flux. I'm like, I do. You just don't always see it on the camera because it's a clear liquid.
I also don't flux in the volumes that,
Yeah.
Rossman does.
I was going to say I do not use micropools of flux. However, contrary to popular belief, I do use flux. There are every now and then there'll be a joint that I'm touching up and I haven't put more flux on it. And people will be like, "You didn't use flux." I'm like, I did, just not on that tiny little touch up. So yeah, I'm not going to go into it super big because, as I say, I'm not going to get into a rant about soldering. However, yeah, trust me, I know about flux. I have it. I do use it. So yeah. Which
someone mentioned about Borg, and I was just like, funnily enough,
I was going to say, did that did that come up in the chat before you suddenly produced that?
Yes. Just the.
I couldn't hear it. Do it again. Oh, it's too quiet. Discord is cutting.
That's really loud.
Oh, there it goes. I think it was overpowering it. Discord kept cutting it.
Yeah, it's really loud though.
I think Discord is picking it up as background noise because it keeps cutting it. But yeah. Still, nice Borg.
No. Oh well.
Yeah, no, it's not doing it.
That was a Christmas present. There you go. That's the box it comes in.
Cute. Very nice.
Absolutely.
Otto, how do I learn to solder? Find a trash board and play? That's a good start. Another thing to do as well, I wish I had them with me because I've got a couple in the shop, is if you want to practice soldering, a really good place to start is to jump on eBay, Amazon, or AliExpress, or Banggood and search for DIY solder kit. And you can buy stupid little widgets that just light up, just things that with LEDs that light up, or just do pointless things. Clock kits and stuff like that. They come with all the components in a circuit board, and you solder it all together, and it's a clock, or it just lights up, or something like that. They're often very basic with all through-hole components or very minor SMD stuff, and that is a great place to start because you can build the kit and you can have something that does a thing. And that's a really great place to start as a my first soldering thing because you get to learn the basics of how to use the iron. Soldering onto old circuit boards and old motherboards and stuff like that, that is another good idea. However, I would try soldering kits first because it's easier. A lot of people who are already familiar with soldering circuit boards forget that like when you're soldering onto motherboards and stuff like that, you need an awful lot more heat and technique than you do for just basic through-hole stuff. The difference is startling. I can run my soldering iron at like 320 degrees on through-hole components, whereas on a motherboard I need like 400 minimum. And so they are very different animals. So starting with cheap DIY soldering kits, they cost a couple of pounds, like less than $5 for a cheap kit, as long as you don't mind waiting for it to show up from China. And you can just solder some things together that light up or make a noise or show a clock or something like that. Great way to start, in my opinion.
Exactly, yeah. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up because I need to be somewhere in 8 minutes.
I do as well, so yeah. I think we're going to cut for... I think we're winding down anyway. Let's wrap up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to cut off for tonight. We have been running for over an hour. Well, about an hour and a half or something.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, need to...
Yeah, we got a jet. We'll be back next Saturday. Maybe even I'll tweet about it 24 hours before the stream rather than 4 minutes before the stream. However,
we might also even be verging on actually organised.
Yeah. We're gonna jet off. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for coming. We'll be back next week. And yeah, I would love it if you can tune in, bring more questions and stuff, and we'll keep nattering. Yeah, don't forget to give us a like if you enjoyed the video, just to let us know that people are liking it, and we'll know to do more of it. Also, thanks for the super chats today, and yeah, thanks to everyone. That's it. Thank you, everyone, and catch you all later. Bye for now. Yeah, that's it. Anything from you, Caradog, or are we good?
No, that's it. And I just realised I posted not as me. Oops.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. For a minute, I saw Adamant IT appearing in the chat. I'm like, who the hell is that? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, you've got access to that. That's the Discord channel. Right, we're out. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to hit the stop streaming button now. Bye!